Hey everybody, talking about pornography addiction this month, and this week I want to talk to you about how to overcome pornography addiction. Pornography addiction brings up such a sense of overwhelming helplessness. Whether you have the addiction or you know somebody who has this addiction, or you're in a relationship with someone who has this addiction, it can bring those feelings up in all parties. And that tends to lead to people doing the wrong thing. They get a little panicky and start ordering and making rules and kicking people out. And, that just is understandable, but it can sometimes make things worse. So I'm here to talk from a doctor's perspective about what typically causes it so we can understand it. If we can understand it, then we can fix it. That's medicine in a nutshell right there. So what causes pornography addiction? Well, in my experience, pornography addiction covers up something else, right? Get very busy and very involved in this inanimate stuff as a way to cover up something within ourselves. And those three things that people cover up are three emotions, actually: anger, neediness, and sadness. These three emotions, more than any other emotions, cause terrible conflict in people. In my 20 years of experience, everybody who's come in with a pornography addiction has conflicts with one or more of those emotions. Again, anger, neediness, sadness. So, what is that about? So what do you mean conflict, Dr. Dabney? Well, anger, for instance, people who feel anger, especially towards someone they love or care about, it can bring up tremendous guilt, as if they shouldn't have this anger, as if it's not normal to have this anger, or they express this anger that's going to lead to hurting that person. So they get very busy burying it, right? They won't admit it to themselves. They dare not say it ever. They just do everything they can. They get very involved in burying it. So pornography is a way, instead of saying to your significant other or loved one, hey, I'm really annoyed or angry that you've let our sex life slide, or that you aren't interested in sex anymore, or we don't have a close relationship, whatever it is, instead they just pretend that anger's not even there, and they're going to use pornography instead. And oh, by the way, a lot of the times people who are burying anger accidentally let the person that they're in a relationship with find out. So then that person ends up getting punished, right? So the anger does get acted out, but not because you let on or talked about it, because you tried to bury it. Then it seeps out, and it's like, oh, then you punish that person for whatever it is they're not doing for you, as opposed to simply talking about it. The other emotion that people tend to cover up with pornography is neediness. Neediness is another emotion people get all conflicted about because they equate neediness with shame. I mean, neediness brings up a lot of shame because they equate it with clingy, having no empathy, people who go after people are too needy. You get this whole scale about certain needs are trivial, certain needs are not. It's this whole mess of things. None of it's true. Neediness is a normal human emotion. In fact, it's the cornerstone of all relationships, right? What's a relationship? But I need you, you need me, shared neediness. So if you think neediness brings up or equates to all these negative things, you're going to get busy burying it. You're going to hide it. You're not going to talk about it. And instead of saying you need more sex or more intimacy, you're just going to go to this inanimate object here who doesn't care if you're needy or not, and use that instead. Okay. The third emotion that people with pornography addiction tend to have conflicts with and thus cover up is sadness. Again, like anger and neediness, sadness tends to be equated with weakness. There's some people who think if they feel sad, they start feeling sad, they're going to go down this rabbit hole, like jello or puddle on the floor. These are the terms I've heard. And they're never going to be functional again. So they just fight sadness, like it's a plague. They don't understand. They won't accept that sadness is a normal human emotion. And so to bury it, again, instead of saying I'm sad or upset that our intimacy isn't where it used to be, or that we're not as close as we used to be, they just go off to the inanimate object who doesn't care if they're sad and Use that instead of being in the relationship. So these three emotions, by using pornography, they effectively, at least for the short run, effectively hide that emotion from their loved one. But they're hiding it from their loved one because they're conflicted with it. The loved one, most of the time, in my experience, is fine with them having anger and neediness and sadness. They don't want the other person to leave them by bearing the emotion and leaving to go off to this other source. It's a way of putting a wedge between you and your significant other, and that causes more problems than actually saying what the emotion is. Okay, so that's pornography addiction. Understanding 101 tends to cover up the three, what I call enemy emotions: anger, neediness, and sadness. But these are normal. They're as normal as rain and leaves and the sky. It's biological, physiological. We all have emotions. If you can get used to and comfortable with those three emotions, then you don't need pornography to cover them up. I wish you all the best. Any problems or troubles, give me a call, 757-340-8800.